Good afternoon on this very warm day. I think we don't, I guess I'm saying the obvious, but thank you for taking your time to come here today to discuss human rights in Nepal. The organizations behind this event is Jubilee Campaign and then Christian Solidarity International and ADF International. And we are really thankful for the UN Special Rapporteur on Minority Issues report, which calls on who recognize that during this political transition that Nepal is in, that it has an opportunity to seize what lies before it to augment the human rights conditions in the country, and made a lot of great recommendations. And why we want to do this side event is that the UPR outcomes of Nepal is tomorrow, and we don't want the rights of minorities and religious minorities to be forgotten. And so we're very thankful that the Special Rapporteur is here and that we can meet today. 4 years ago, Jubilee Campaign, together with a group of other organizations, submitted a UPR, and it was a multi-religious UPR, raising concerns with laws that actually were used to discriminately limit the freedom of speech and freedom of association of minorities. So we hope that with this new transition in Nepal, it will be a Nepal for all Nepalis, regardless of religion or belief. And before we start, there's also some house rules, as if you've been here a while, you might be aware of. Only person who's allowed to take photos is our David over there, so you can wave your hand. But we'd ask that everyone else, please don't take photos, otherwise you will be told off. And yeah, and these photos will not be of your faces, so you can rest easy. It will only be of the panelists. And at the end, we're actually opening up for questions. So please be ready for any questions you might have. And we look forward to this discussion. And now I will hand over to Joel Veldkamp with Christian Solidarity International. He directs advocacy for the organization. And so I look forward to hearing more. And thank you for coming.
As Hulda said, my name is Joel Veldkamp. I'm the Director of Advocacy for Christian Solidarity International, and I'll be moderating our event today. Our keynote speaker is Professor Nicolas Levrat, the UN Special Rapporteur for Minority Issues. Professor Levrat is a full professor of international and European law at the University of Geneva. There he has served as the director of the Global Studies Institute and the director of the International Law Department. In 2022, he was elected second vice president of the Advisory Committee on the Framework Convention for the Protection of National Minorities of the Council of Europe, a position which he resigned from when he took up his role as Special Rapporteur in September 2023. Professor Levrat is not just an authority on minorities in the abstract. He also visited Nepal on a country visit last December, and based on that visit, he produced an incisive report on the human rights situation in Nepal, which continues to stimulate productive dialogue here in Geneva. And speaking as an NGO representative, I think I can say that Professor Levrat has distinguished himself as a Special Rapporteur who is exceptionally engaged with both states and civil society, and who has taken on a number of exceedingly difficult issues. So we're very honored and grateful that you're with us here today, Professor. And yeah, with that, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and a very warm welcome. That's another way to say it. It's hot today. And thank you for the invitation to participate to this side event. As you said, I had the opportunity to do a monitoring visit, a country visit, invited by the Nepalese authorities last year from the 4th to the 13th of December. It was a bit peculiar because the invitation had been negotiated and agreed with the previous government, and actually it was a transitory government, so we had many discussion, hesitation on whether to do the visit or not, and in agreement with the transitory Nepalese authorities, we decided that it was worth conducting the visit despite the, let's say, unstable political situation. Again, it's not the rule to do it in such circumstances, but somehow it felt that it could be useful to monitor the existing situation, which was not going to change in the next 6 months, and probably to be able, in my reporting to the Human Rights Council, which was in March this year, to make specific recommendations that could be picked up by the new government. So I'm very grateful for the Nepalese authorities to have maintained the invitation, to have help organizing the visit. I had the opportunity to visit different parts of the countries where the situations are quite different. And naturally, the reporting to the Human Rights Council gave the opportunity to a fruitful dialogue with the Nepalese authorities. You've seen my report. They also made comments on some of my findings and recommendations. I think it was constructive on both sides, but yes, we don't necessarily agree on everything. I had since further contact with the Nepalese representation here in Geneva, and we're trying to see if it's possible to have a follow-up visit. So it's really constructive approach with the Nepalese authorities. Now, Nepal, as you know, is quite diverse country. And actually, it is recognized in the Nepalese constitution, Article 3, call or qualify the country as, I quote, multi-ethnic, multilingual, multi-religious, and multicultural. So there is a recognition in this diversity in the basic legal framework of the country. And I would say in general, the legal framework is quite correct as regards human rights, quite minority friendly. Where it is a bit more difficult, it's in the implementation, where you both have difficulties linked to long-lasting practice in society, which cannot be reverted in a few decades. As you know, Nepal had major changes in something like a bit more than 10 years. So it's, well, I mean, the process had started earlier, but it really picked up speed in 2015 with the new constitution. So it is really a process in the making. And as I say, I think there are resistance in society to just implement the Black Law letter. And second, unfortunately, Nepal is a country which has also issues with resources, and it is currently lacking in some fields the capacity, financial, human capacity, to implement some policies that would be needed, and you can see that in my recommendation. And as you know, it is a difficult period for two reasons now, economically. First, a lot of foreign aid assistance have been cut everywhere, and that also hurts Nepal. And second, it's a country where you have a lot of immigration, and remittances were an important part of the economic capacity of the Nepalese society, and many of these expat workers were in the Gulf countries. And as you know, the situation has been very complicated, to say the least. There are also worries, actually, for the fate of many of these workers in the Gulf countries. But the remittances have been dramatically reduced since February this year. So we have a combination with the new government. And it is quite interesting because, as you know, I was scheduled to go for my country visit to Nepal in the last week of September, and events happened a couple of days before, well, 2 weeks before. And actually, it was one of these Gen Z movements. And so far, it is the only Gen Z movement that really produced a significant political change, where we had election in April this year, and the result was a government which actually is led by somebody representing this generation. So I think there are many hopes and opportunities for this new government to implement what you find in the legislation. As I say, it's a diverse country. There are many linguistic minorities. Actually, Only about 45% of Nepalese population fluently speaks Nepalese. So it is an issue, especially as regard education. Many children enter the educational system and actually do not understand the language. So very often they drop out because naturally, well, we're probably all too old to remember what is the first day at school, but it's quite a shock. You're in a new environment, and if you don't even understand the language, then it's really too much. So there is linguistic diversity. Sorry, with the heat, my fuse are kind of melting. Thank you. There is also religious diversity. Here we have a clear majority. It's more than 80% who are Hindu. And traditionally, historically, it had been a country with a clear Hindu background. But the 2015 constitution states that Nepal is a secular state, and we have minorities. The largest religious minority are Buddhists, about 8.2%. We have 1.5 million of Muslims. This is about 5%. Naturally, the figures are not absolutely exact and so on, because as you know, this is a general issue as regards minority issues. Disaggregated data collection is always subject to a lot of interpretation, but that's about it. And then we have Christians, about 500,000 Christians. That's 1.8% more or less. We have Kirats also, a bit more than Christians actually. So we have religious diversity, but with a strong dominant group, which is Hindus. And one important aspect also I think I have to speak about, and then I'll give the floor so we can have some sort of exchange, is that Nepal is a landlocked country, which is okay. I mean, Switzerland is a landlocked country, so you can live with that, but it has big neighbors. And naturally, there is an influence from one of the big neighbor more than the other, which is a country in which tension between Hindu and Muslims have been rising for years. And this is being reflected also in the Nepalese society, especially in the southern part, which is really, I mean, it's an open border with India. So that's also part of the context and something that has to be taken into account when we evaluate the situation and the relationship between the religious groups in Nepal. So I will not go over the recommendation. I've seen with pleasure that my report was available out there. So naturally, if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer and to dialogue with panelists or with the room. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Levrat. So just to give us all an idea of how this event will now proceed, the idea is to bring voices from Nepal as well as policy experts together to kind of set the stage for the situation for religious freedom, freedom of conscience, freedom of assembly in Nepal in these crucial days. So we're shortly going to hear from a lawyer based in Nepal, Mr. Buddha Ghising. But first we're going to see a short video that was taken in Nepal a few months ago. This is a video that shows testimony from a group of pastors who were arrested in Nepal in March 2026 and charged with violating Nepal's anti-conversion law. So as soon as we're ready, we will play that video.
14 दिनको प्रहरीको बसाइमा सजिलो भन्ने कुरा थिएन किनभने त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ विभिन्न प्रकारका गतिविधि घटनाहरू घटाएर आएका व्यक्तिहरू चाहिँ त्यहाँ संलग्न थिए र उनीहरूको बीचमा नै हाम्रो पनि बसोबास रह्यो र जब प्रहरी हिरासतमा प्रवेश भयो त्यस पश्चात चाहिँ हामीलाई त्यहाँको बस्न खान र त्यहाँको रहन सहनसँग चाहिँ घुलमिल हुनको निम्ति चाहिँ अति नै गाह्रो थियो कठिन थियो खानको लागि मुस्किल थियो टोयलेटहरू गर्ने कुराहरूदेखि लिएर हो हल्ला त्यहाँनिर भाग धम्कीहरू विविध कुराहरूको बोलीचाली र व्यवहारहरू चाहिँ त्यहाँनिर थियो सजिलो हाम्रो निम्ति थिएन कठिनता धेरै थियो र हामीले एउटा जिउँदो नरकको अनुभव गरेका थियौँ
र म पनि 14 दिन जेलमा बस्दाखेरि मेरो चाहिँ एकदमै सुगर टेन्सनको कारणले र समातेको कारणले चाहिँ एकदमै सुगर बढेको कारणले मेरो सुगर चाहिँ 870 पुगेको थियो र एकदम गाह्रो थियो हिँड्न पनि नसक्ने जस्तो थियो र पनि जब साथीहरूलाई भन्यो मलाई रातभरि नै उहाँ अस्पतालमा चाहिँ मेरो एउटा हातमा चाहिँ हत्करी लगाएर रातभरि एकदमै रोए अनि प्रार्थना पनि गरे र प्रभु मैले के गरेको छु र के गल्ती गरेको छु भन्ने कुराहरू महसुस गरेँ हृदयदेखि नै प्रभुसँग पनि प्रार्थना गरेँ र जब फेरि म बिहान कस्टडीमा भित्र थानामा आयो अनि त्यसपछि सब साथीहरूसँग पनि सेयर गरेँ यस्तो यस्तो मलाई रातभरि समस्या दुःख कष्ट यस्तो भयो र पनि साथीहरूसँग सेयर गर्दै र म एकदमै साथीहरूलाई पनि फेरि एकदमै सन्तावना र सहेर पनि त्यहाँ हामी 14 दिन बस्यो उत्साह पनि पायो र धेरै कठिनाइको बावजुद पनि हामीहरू सहेर बस्यो
हुन्छ जब हामी सुसमाचारको क्रममा समात्यो त्यति बेला चाहिँ जब भित्र गयो हामी थुनामा गयो हामी त्यति बेला मलाई सन्चो थिएन मलाई अल्सरको समस्या ग्यास्ट्रिकको समस्या थियो अनि त्यहाँ भित्र गएर मलाई एकदम गाह्रो भइराखेको थियो तर साथीहरूलाई त्यति सेयर गरिराखेको थिएन किनभने उनीहरूलाई टेन्सन हुन्छ भनेर 14 दिन बस्नु पर्यो भित्रको बसाइ चाहिँ राम्रो थिएन अब त्यहाँको खाना बस्ना र हिँड्न नपाउने र धेरै थरीका केसहरू भएका मान्छेहरू आउँथे धेरै समस्या आउँथे
So we're grateful to these men for sharing their stories with us. For security reasons, of course, they have to remain anonymous, unfortunately. We're now going to hear from 2 speakers from Nepal who will be joining us online, after which we'll hear from our colleague Jonas Fiebrantz from Alliance Defending Freedom International, who will give us a policy perspective on this issue. But our first guest from Nepal is Mr. Buddha Ghising. I apologize if I mispronounced that. But he is a lawyer from Nepal who has represented several clients who have been arbitrarily detained and charged under Nepal's anti-conversion law. He is currently a coordinator for the Christian Lawyer Fellowship, working in the area of religious freedom advocacy. He's also the founder of the Agape Center for Law and Reconciliation. So, Mr. Ghising, I hope that you have been able to join us, and if you are there, please chime in. The floor is yours.
Thank you for giving this opportunity to speak about Nepal's religious freedom, and I'm happy to see those pastors' voice has been reached to the international platform, and these cases are still being led by me, and it was tragic for them, as we just heard the story from them. I would just like to the update what's happening in Nepal, and Nepal, even it is the declared a secular state, and we see that the explanation of the secular state is the preserving the religion and the culture handed down from the time of immemorial, and which refer to the Hinduism. So, but how this, under which the criminal penal code has been enacted, and under the penal code provision, many minority, particularly the Christians peoples, are being arrested every year and being threatened, and those the foreigners are being deported in every year. So but how can the international community, or this kind of the legal provision can be changed? The first is, I would like to mention that it is the inquiry to the Nepal government, and inquiry about the implementation of the international commitment. Nepal is a signatory party of ICCPR, and that creates a legal obligation to implement the commitment which enshrined in the ICCPR, which provide full protection and promotion of the religious freedom. And for that, the Nepal has to be, keep inquired by the international community. I would just like to mention the one example. Recently, I read one book mentioned by, written by one of the ambassador of Nepal during the presidency of Jimmy Carter in the United States. That time there was the king monarchy system in Nepal, and that time the Christians were being arrested every time, everywhere. So the Jimmy Carter kept pressuring the king monarch king that time. So king was able to at least give some the freedom in some areas. So this is why the main to change the law and the legal provision on the restriction on the religion, and in the particular the Christian minority, the international community must take a active initiative to get to inquire the Nepal government, the state, the head of the state, and now the head of the state of Nepal government is the Prime Minister. And because Nepal is a signatory party of ICCPR and other international convention, it's a primary responsibility for the protection and promotion of the human rights. And the another thing is, how can we the change or the work in changing the law is to coordinate with the National Human Rights Commission. National Human Rights Commission is an integral component of the UN human rights, and it is considered to be a regional mechanism to implement the international human rights, including the religious freedom and the right to religious freedom. The National Human Rights Commission is a constitutional body which is established under the 248 article of the Nepal Constitution, which serve principal, which serve as the principal national human rights institution, and particularly they review. They are mandated to review the human right violation, including infringement upon the religious freedom. And they have a power to recommend a legal action and department of punishment against the violators of human rights. So, and they recommend to the government. But what happens if the government will not be initiating the action against on the basis of the recommendation by the National Human Rights Commission? Then they have a right to those human rights violators, a measure that can carry significant reputational consequences. And they can put them in a blacklist as a human right violators. And this demonstrates that legal changing regarding the religious freedom is possible, and that can be function of the existing legal framework to implement and to enforce. And another question I have given is, what legal reform would be improve freedom, would help improve freedom of expression in Nepal. And first is the constitutional amendment. We have a very technical problem in the constitution, even in the preamble. We all the time speak about Nepal is a secular state, but there is a explanation of the secular, what is secular mean, which does not refer to protect and promote the minority religious community, minority religious faith. It promote and protect only the dominant religious religious community or the religion, which we refer to the Hinduism. We already heard that the Hinduism in Nepal is almost 80%. And the secular means to protect and promote the 80% dominant religious community. So this has to be reformed, and this has to be amended. And many times in every year, I just, when I just, go through the newspaper and, UN rapporteur reports, many countries, international communities recommended to repeal and amend the provision, but it's still not happening. So, and another is the penal code. Penal code has the main obstacle and being misused by the Nepalese authority. As we heard the story, those pastors were not evangelizing the gospel. They were there to meet their believers, their church members. But when the people groups which belong to the Hinduism, and they came and they just try to find find something from their bag, and they just found that, and they found some materials which is related to the gospel. On the basis of that, they just arrested, and they just persecuted, and the allegation of the conversion, which was not true. That was the false accusation. So it is being being misused by the Nepalese authority. So it has to be amended. So before amending the provision of the penal code, the constitution must be in the explanation of the secular state, and the article 26 of the constitution also has to be amended. Until and unless these two provisions of the constitution still remain, the other amendment or the amendment in the penal code will not be sufficient. So not only that, the other thing is, we still have some problem in the penal code, not only the article 58. The another problem is, the stage of limitation. And last year there was one pastor from a local church. He called me that one of his church members called him after 5 years. He has been baptized, and he was threatening him that he realized now after 5 years that he has been converted by the pastors. So he was demanding the huge amount of the money, and if pastor did not able to provide the money, and he could sue against the pastor. Here is the provision. The provision says that the complaint about on the conversion shall lie after expiry of 6 months from the date of knowledge of the commission. And when they have the knowledge, and they can go in any time. So this is also the one of the the problem, and that has to be amended. And there are still other in the problem also. There is an extra territorial jurisdiction. Even the Nepali people residing across the outside of the country, abroad, like America, Europe, and the Middle East, the South, UAE, where the people are for the employment. Now they are expanding the gospel, and if they convert someone, or the preach someone, or the evangelize someone, and if they return to Nepal, and they just sue against the report against them, they will be liable to bear that criminal liability. And this is also the one the problem we see in the penal code that has to be amended. And
Mr. Ghising, if it's all right, I think this has been very, very helpful. If it's all right with you, we'll move on to our next speakers, and we can discuss all of these issues in the question and answer time. Yeah, thank you so much. It was very helpful, very constructive, I find. We will now move to Mr. Dili Ram. Mr. Dili Ram is a prominent Christian leader in Nepal and serves as the chairman of the Nepal Christian Society and coordinator for international relationships. Previously, he served as a general secretary for the NCS, which is a network of churches in Nepal, and he has firsthand experience with anti-Christian pressure in Nepal. So, Mr. Ram, it's up to you.
Yes, thank you for having us from Nepal, and thank you for this opportunity. Yes, I think we already heard from the Buddha Ghising, and he explaining about the situation of our law in our country. When some of our friends is looking from the internationally, some of the English word and Nepal word is quite different in the constitution, so they can play here and there. So in the year in 2020, I went to Dang to have a conference with the pastor there in the province. So I only talk inside the church with the key pastors of that area. So later, second day, when I tried to come back from that place to the airport, toward the Kathmandu, and they arrested me. And all the things in my bag, like the laptop and some pen drive, some Bible, some tracts, some letters, some money, and they make that as a evidence or witness, and try to put me to the 5 years jail and the 50,000 punishment. But good news is that within a 7 day, all the help of the different lawyer, Buddha Ghising was also there, and some other lawyer also helping me to advocate, so I able to come out. But whole 1 year I need to attend to the district court, and another year I need to go for the high court. So 2 years, almost 500 kilometers from Kathmandu, I need to attend to the court every month. And the persecution is going quite high, is local violence also going. We just saw the video. I met them also. We also talk with them, and the local violence is happening, and the government also not really favor. We don't know what this government will look like, but is this all young and want to do some things, and all this popular people come to the government. We don't know what their stand for the religious freedom. And also they are asking us to Nepali people to give some idea about the changing the constitution. So we, Nepal Christian Society with other, we also give our perspective to the government. So I think is a day by day we can hear the update. As a Nepal Christian Society, I'm co-chairman, and I was a general secretary before. So we have been getting information about people is giving threatening, and villager giving threatening, some government official giving threatening, some of the diplomat also giving some kinds of threatening to the people. And we have been hearing as a day by day, there's a persecution court case is going on. So we are privileged. Thank you for everybody who is working on behalf of Nepal. And also this government say only 1.8% is Christian. So we just have some kinds of survey. We are now is 3 to 4% of the Christians, but this doesn't matter. We're still in the minority, and a lot of things going on. Sometimes some of the root word is speaking in the parliament. Some of the parliament member also saying something, and some of the political party is very against, and some others is the really talking bad behalf of us on social media and different kinds of things. So I hope this year is from international level also that some kinds of voice toward the nation. So if constitution is changing, that will become to our favor. That is our prayer, and please keep continuously talking behalf of us. Thank you for coming to Nepal and doing survey, and do try to meet our officials and the politicians and the ministers, and we like to see that happen. And we also want to very much educate our churches, although his persecution is real, but also faith in Jesus also real. So we also now we are Christian is more suffer because we are more minority, and same way Buddhist and Muslim, but you know that 81% they are claiming themselves as a Hindu, and there is more favor on them. So and we already heard from the Buddha. Nepal is one of the signatory from the ICCPR. So I hope, and we are praying that the situation will be changed in Nepal. Now, just today we have been getting information in Nepal is in the 46 in the rank of the in the persecution area. So that also show that persecution is growing up in Nepal. Thank you very much. I think is because of timing, I want to quit here. Thank you and bless you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ram, for that really moving personal testimony, and also for respecting the time. It's very kind of you. We'll now move to our final speaker, Mr. Jonas Fiebrantz from the Alliance Defending Freedom. He is the UN Advocacy Officer for ADF International. He's also the Vice Chair of the NGO Committee for Freedom of Religion and Belief here in Geneva. So please, Jonas.
Thank you so much. Excellencies, esteemed colleagues, I'd like to use my time to complement what has already been shared by my distinguished co-panelists. I'll share some insights from an international law perspective, as well as highlighting some key opportunities within international fora for greater transparency and progress towards realizing the human rights of minorities, particularly religious minorities in Nepal. For reference, our organization, ADF International, is a faith-based legal advocacy group that coordinates with a broad alliance of lawyers, including those in Asia. And we have offices at various major institutions, including the UN in New York and Geneva, where we try to partner with governments and other actors to try to offer our legal expertise to help to advance human rights around the world. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, already mentioned a few times, to which Nepal acceded in 1991, lays out the core obligations pertaining to freedom of religion, expression, the rights of minorities, and the principles of non-discrimination and equal protection of the law. According to Article 18, the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion includes the freedom, either individually or in community with others, and in public or private, to manifest one's religion or belief in worship, observance, practice, and teaching. As aptly noted by the former Special Rapporteur on freedom of religion or belief, Heiner Bielefeld, freedom of religion or belief has a strong communicative dimension, which includes, among others, the freedom to communicate within one's own religious or belief group, the freedom to share one's conviction with others and to broaden one's own horizons by communicating with people of different convictions, the freedom to cherish and develop contacts across state boundaries, the freedom to receive and disseminate information about religious or belief issues, and the freedom to try to persuade others in a non-coercive manner. The right to propagate one's religion or belief through peaceful means is inseparable from the full enjoyment of the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, as well as freedom of expression. Now, let us be clear. This right is not absolute, as Bielefeld notes. If individuals or organizations try to convert people by resorting to means of coercion or by directly exploiting situations of particular vulnerability, protection by states against such practices may prove necessary. However, he goes on to clarify that any such restrictions can only be justified if they strictly meet all the criteria set out in international law, including the principles of legality, necessity, and proportionality. Critically, as observed by the Human Rights Committee, limitations on freedom of religion or belief, or any right for that matter, should proceed from the need to protect the rights in question and must not be applied in a manner that would vitiate those rights. In other words, the sharing of one's religious beliefs, including for the purpose of persuading others, cannot be subject to a blanket restriction, but may only be limited in those cases of genuine coercion or infringement on the rights of others. Importantly, such a limitation would need to protect individual rights holders, not religions or cultural heritage as such. Nepal's constitutional prohibition on religious conversion, as well as its corresponding penal code provisions, which we've heard about, currently fail to meet this threshold, resulting in legal ambiguity with serious ramifications for members of religious minorities, even when their legitimate expression may be regarded with suspicion at best, or met with serious legal consequence at worst, and we've heard a few testimonies of that kind. Now, beyond the requirement not to impose overbroad restrictions on the rights of minorities to exercise their freedoms, international law also calls on the government of Nepal to undertake enabling efforts for Christians and other religious minorities to enjoy their right without discrimination and with full equal protection from those who would threaten those rights, including non-state actors. This includes removing burdensome registration requirements for places of worship, guaranteeing access to adequate burial sites, and protecting minority members from harassment and violence perpetrated by mobs and radical groups. This also includes preventing so-called reconversion rituals, which we've had reports on, wherein non-Hindus are forcibly inducted into the majority religion on threat of violence or expulsion from their local communities. With all of this said, what steps can the government take toward fulfilling its human rights obligations? We have already heard about some key opportunities at the national level, including the constitutional amendment process. I'd like to add just a few notable avenues within international human rights mechanisms for the government's consideration. First, the Universal Periodic Review of Nepal, which is scheduled to be adopted tomorrow. ADF International, along with several other civil society organizations, raised these matters in our respective stakeholder submissions. Now, while the review itself has already concluded, there is ample opportunity for the government to make voluntary pledges pertaining to the particular situation of religious minorities and to incorporate these into its implementation plan ahead of the next cycle of the UPR. Secondly, the government may wish to consider submitting a national report to the Human Rights Committee, which in 2021 published its list of issues prior to reporting on Nepal. In it, the committee explicitly requested the government to share information on the situation of freedom of conscience and religious belief in the country, including responding to reports of criminalization of religious conversion, barriers to registration of religious minority associations, and difficulties in purchasing and accessing burial sites. Submitting a national report to inform a periodic review, the first in 12 years if submitted, would reflect the government's commitment to enhancing human rights protections in Nepal and create an opportunity for dialogue and cooperation in that regard. Finally, I commend Nepal for extending the invitation to allow the Special Rapporteur, Mr. Levrat, to conduct his invaluable country visit. Continued engagement with relevant special procedures mandate holders not only signals a commitment to transparency, but also opens the door to fruitful exchanges aimed at an exploration of best practices and possible law and policy reforms that can help further Nepal's implementation of its international obligations. We, as ADF International, and I'm certain the other panelists and sponsors share this sentiment, express our sincere desire to constructively engage with the Nepalese government and civil society, and to provide our support in promoting the advancement of human rights of the people of Nepal, including members of religious minorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fiebrantz. Are there questions from the floor for any of our speakers, whether online? Yes, sir. And please introduce yourself and state your affiliation.
Moderator, you give me a space for me. This is Rahman Khalil Mamun. I am on behalf of Tumuku Development and Cultural Union. It's a consultative status NGO working in the human rights. I am a Bangladeshi human rights defender since 10 years in this house. First, I have to draw attention, most congratulations, you raised concern regarding the minority issues in the Nepal. But this is not the issue only for the Nepal, all of the Southeast Asia. I mean, Nepal, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh is a very serious concern regarding the minority issue, especially Bangladesh. Last 2 years, from 24 to now until 26, there is a 2 regimes have been changes. Yunus regime was the 18 months, now the new government 6 months, around the 4 months. But the Bangladeshi minority issue is the international issue, especially the Chinmay Krishna Prabhu is a priest of the Hindus. He is since 2 years in the prison. And the same issue I have been raised concern to Professor Nicolas that he knows very well that without reason, he is as a Hindu priest, he is in the prison on the murder cases. This issue is really very unhumanitarian, very serious concern. At the same time, the Christian Solidarity International raising concern the minority in the Nepal, but in the Christian of the Bangladesh also, there have several issues, several human rights violation regarding. So I would like to draw attention, both of you, Mr. Nicolas, he knows very well. I have been several times to concerning about, and Mr. Joel Meldrew, please make the attention about regarding that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And yeah, just speaking on behalf of CSI, we are very concerned about Bangladesh and we're watching that very closely. Would you like to react at all, Professor Levrat?
At the end, no.
Okay. Then we'll keep taking questions. And our first questioner did an excellent job of keeping his question short. Please follow his example. In the blue shirt, sir.
Good afternoon, Professor Levrat and panelists. This is Susan Lamisane, Second Secretary at the Permanent Mission of Nepal in Geneva. And first of all, I would like to thank all the panelists for their remarks, and I would also like to thank Special Rapporteur for making a country visit to our country and for presenting the report, to which we have also submitted our inputs and feedback, which have been incorporated in the report of the 61st session of the Human Rights Council. I particularly do not have a question, but I have something to clarify, some comments from my side. As stated by Professor Levrat, Nepal is a multi-ethnic, multilingual, multi-religious, multicultural, and plural society. The Constitution of Nepal guarantees equality, non-discrimination, social justice, inclusion, and proportional representation. The Constitution explicitly protects the rights of minorities and prohibits all forms of discrimination on grounds of caste, religion, language, and region. And in addition, the freedom of religion is completely guaranteed by the Constitution, and the government is firmly committed to implementing the rights of people to exercise the freedom of religion. Any restrictions are intended to prevent coercion, undue influence, or forced conversions. There is no blanket restriction on religious conversion. People can willingly convert their religion, and the only restriction is on forceful conversion, and the prohibition is the conversion by coercion or by undue influence and or by exploitation, and that is designed to remain within the permissible limitations under the international human rights law and the commitments made by government of Nepal, and also to maintain the public order. And regarding another fact presented regarding the percentage of Nepali people speaking Nepali, I wish to clarify that 46% of Nepali have the mother tongue as Nepali language, but there are other Nepali people who have different mother tongue, but they can speak fluently Nepali. That comprises of a large volume. So majority, almost 90-95% of Nepali, I do not have the exact figure, but that much population can speak Nepali fluently. So the fact that only 46% of Nepali can speak Nepali fluently is misrepresented. And in addition, there were talks about Article 4 of the Constitution. I wish to read out the Article 4 of the Constitution, where the secular term is used, and the explanation in the term secular is like this: for the purposes of this article, secular means religious cultural freedoms, explicitly mentioned religious freedoms, including protection of religion, culture handed down from the time immemorial. It does not mean any dominated religion, any majority religion. It includes all religions, all cultures, including the minorities, all religious and cultural practices practiced within the territory of Nepal, practiced by Nepali people. So it does not restrict any religious or cultural practices. It does not limit to anything. So I wish to explain and clarify these points. And also there were concerns about detainees and inmates, the conditions in prison. The government is always committed to ensure the decent living within prison and within custody with full respect to their human rights, and committed to protecting and promoting their human rights no matter where they are, whether they are in prison, whether they are in Nepal or even abroad. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for being here at this event today. We're glad that you're here, and thank you for addressing these issues. In the black shirt, sir, could you make your question in like 20 seconds?
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you, panelists, for providing this opportunity. I'm Raj BK from Nepal, represented as a Dalit civil society organization. I would like to add one thing. In Nepal, there is a highly systematic and structural caste-based discrimination, yet which manifests as a severe exclusion, untouchability, and human rights violence against Dalit, especially on women and girls. It constitutes about 14% population of the Nepal population. So we must not leave the issues of Dalit and untouchability of Nepal in any human rights discussion form. So I'm interested to know from the panelists how this issue has been taken into the human rights perspective as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Professor Levrat, do you have a final word for us?
I'm not sure it's final, but yes, I have a few more words. In general, but first, yes, as you said, the situation of different minorities, religious minorities, the issue of caste, naturally, the Dalits are not specific to Nepal. And in that respect, I'm once again thankful that Nepal accepted a country visit in South Asia. It's the only country which did. And yes, some of the issues that are being addressed concerning Nepal, because the visit was to Nepal, do have also silence in neighboring countries. And yes,
I'm very sorry. I'm getting the sign from the UN staff that we need to come to an end.
Okay. So just 3 points about the National Human Rights Commission that was mentioned. There are also many specialized commissions. I don't have time to go on them, dealing with different human rights issues. It's one of the issues whether they should be kept or cancelled, because they were just established for 10 years. I think that's an interesting point that has to be pressed with the new government. And naturally, the idea to propose change to the constitution is very important, because it's precisely in this time of change that you can have effect on the fate of minorities and how they are protected and represented in the country. So, yes, maybe last point about anti-conversion law. It does exist in quite a few countries, 46 according to my count. And in all these countries, the problem is with the implementation. It is always discriminatory, and this is probably why the reason you have such legislation.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming here. It was a wonderful event. It is now over.